I want, well, while I'm here, I want to ask you, or also go back to a question of, just a little bit of, I would love just a little bit of the story, some stories of just the beginning as we're being documented, the beginning of Tanzfabrik, or what was the first moment that contact came to Berlin, came to Germany, where did it come from? I think or Heike, I don't know what your experience in Leipzig, or I have some questions about just those facts are part of the story. Someone said, oh, well, everyone knows that. I was like, I don't. So.
Okay, so this would actually be pre-Tanzfabrik, yeah, but like Tanzfabrik was mainly started by two people, Christine Bonado and Reinhard Kratzig, like one coming from the States and Reinhard being a Berliner. And Christine Bonado, like there is a dancer coming from Philadelphia, and she has studied in Temple University, working with Helmut Gottschalk, like who was Mary Wittmann's last assistant in Berlin. So there is this whole like rotation going on, yeah, from also like freelance or not accepted work like in the late 60s, yeah, like people wanted to work differently and there was no acceptance because like there is no continuation of modern dance in Germany, like there is a flashback from modern back to ballet, and then the people who continued to work with modern dance had no place to go or no support, so they went to the States, Helmut Gottschalk and Manfred Fischbeck and Gitte Hermann, they formed two different groups in Philadelphia, Group Motion Multimedia Theater and Zero Moving Dance Company. Christine worked with Zero Moving, and Jacqueline Carley worked with Group Motion, and the Academy of Arts was one of the very few places in Berlin to organize series like the PMTT, Pantomime, Musik, Tanztheater, and places to bring Cunningham or Trisha Brown or Davistan or whatever. So one of the very few places at that time where you could see other stuff. And Christine liked it here, and Reinhard went to Philadelphia, and so Christine came to Berlin and she started to teach contact improvisation. And going queer, yeah, so like the place was above the Schwutz, the Schwulenzentrum, in a gallery space, dancing on concrete floor, in Kulmerstraße, and then also in Cottbusser Damm, like in Mediazentrum, and then Reinhard found the place here, and then so like we practically renovated the building, like mainly this and this part, and this was a studio and this was a living community. And so there is like those forms of like living and working and all this kind of.
And you people were living here, yeah, at the beginning.
And so Christine was teaching in the beginning contact, and then later Reinhard was teaching contact, and Christine was teaching more modern dance or voice and improvisation and other stuff. And then also Fred Holland came and lived here and was teaching contact, and I took classes with Reinhard at the university, and then I started also to teach contact. And so like, so in the beginning there were lots of improvisation performances that were contact based, but also definitely also dealing with music or with other improvisation structures, not pure contact.
Which year? This was the
77, 78. So
what years did other contact, like Americans, and start teaching in Germany?
Like I invited Ernie Adams and Bob Reese in 81 or so. When was last member in Tanzfabrik?
They stopped basically 82. But
yeah, so it must have been 81 or so, because then there was a whole group of Berliners going to San Francisco and doing the last workshop there.
Okay.
So this was when John DeFan or Freddie Long and all those like were also teaching there. Right. So it was not all male anymore. So it was kind of mixed. Yeah. So this is pretty much like the beginning here. And then later, Bob Reese really moved to Germany, and he moved also to Düsseldorf and was teaching at the Werkstatt in Düsseldorf, and was teaching a lot in Kreativhaus in Münster. So the Museumsat Freiburg was definitely one of the first places that I know where it was taught more regularly. But at that time, Tanzfabrik was also the first place to introduce body-mind centering with Gail Turner coming here. So I feel like that there has been a history of this place of bringing over like the German-American bridge kind of, although like it didn't bridge back.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think that's in some ways, I think. I mean, Heike coming to and moving on center, a lot of people come as students, but also like Silke Zed, who was at Moving on Center and was last year produced at Counterpulse in a very grassroots way. But there's some, we feel in San Francisco, that people go, oh, there are a bunch of Germans coming to San Francisco quite regularly.
Yeah, but not to teach or perform that. It's
much
less
less
free.
kind of a new level where it's really contact.
I'm just saying much less.
Much less, for sure.
This is Silke Zimmermann from
Yeah, Silke who went to EDDC.
Yeah, and also like going East Berlin and West Berlin, or when the wall came down, like Wolfgang Sven came over from Potsdam and they were part of the Beitrag here and like really were going through lots of classes and courses and other things. And when they opened their first place there, also there's been lots of exchange going on between Potsdam and Tanzfabrik or so. So yeah, like I think Tanzfabrik has always been a place for people to come here first, or like being erste Anlaufstelle oder so, and being more on the grassroots level, or like later people have success and then they fund or whatever, but Tanzfabrik never getting the respect for that, and which was also like it took the Senate 25 years to realize it's a choreographic center when there are 60 people working here. So yeah, like talking politics or so.
Yeah, with a lot of spaces in Germany, it's like this. I mean, Bewegungsart was always a place like this, or Tut in Hanover, where there was a certain recognition that education in a certain way took place, also in contact, BMC and improvisation. But most of them were, in fact, kind of pre-courses for people then going to Amsterdam or Arnhem to study, or to go to America to study.
Yeah, like what the Tanzfabrik never, in the sense, also was meant to be like a professional education. Like for us, it was an education because we were autodidact, or like there was no education. Yeah, and we don't need no so. But for us it was like trying to integrate all different kinds of visual arts and also like contact into choreography or so, like that part was always there. But for example, on the conference in 1988 here in Berlin, we did try to make a performance marathon and say like, please not choreographed work, and then still like some people did show choreographed work. This was against the rule, kind of, or like there was really a try to say like, okay, we want a performance marathon and no choreographed work, we really want improvised work.
I also have a question because it came up in the CI-36 satellite in Stolzenhagen that I did with Christina. I was going through the source book, and Keith Orman writes in 1988 about the jam in Berlin, a very interesting article about jam in Berlin and what that means for him. But there was one sentence, he says, the Berlin Contact Ballet has been formed by participants of the jam. Do you know anything about this?
No, this was his way of protesting. There has never been a Berlin Contact Ballet. This was like where some people felt not being represented enough in an event where we had difficulties. Like this was the first time really like with 80 people or so, like how do you organize food and housing and as part of a festival and like facing organizational difficulties. Yeah, like how to represent everybody or like create space for everybody, and like you get more and more registration people from all over, and like at a certain point you have to say no limit, basta, no more Berliners, and so there was a difficulty.